BlazinZzetti coming into a truck section of his own. Apparently, wait one sec. Alright, so Tommy coming into the first boss fight against Bigfoot. The strategy of this boss fight is to somersault onto the front left box so that you can jump and continuously hit Bigfoot in the cockpit of their mecha. Yes, I apologize that my mic appeared to have been muted. We're fine. I apologize, commentary was not there. I did not know my commentary was not there. I apologize. Tommy getting into Wild Canyon looking for free pieces. Unfortunately, none immediately visible to him. Is there a difference between the speed gaming channels? The difference is what is happening on them. Tommy now going for on a red circle, a pretty solid third piece. It's the top of the bottom, so it's not very difficult to get to it from either section, as BlazinZzetti finishes up Bigfoot. Unfortunately, there's a pretty solid time difference between these two runners as of right now, due to City Escape Skip. It really can be a make or break, especially in runs. And Zetti is going for his own Wild Canyon. Those floating rocks pieces can be difficult if you are not perfectly aimed for them. Tommy going into Eggman 1, also known as hold forward and push the action button. Unfortunately, sometimes his AI does not like to cooperate, but Tommy is still able to get a 1309. Not a problem at all. Zetti finishing up his first Knuckles stage. Tommy now going into Prison Lane, the first Tails stage of this game. The thing about Tails is he moves from point A to point B in a way very similar to Sonic, except when he turns, he loses all of his speed, and Tails has a mech with a gun. This gun shoots little homing shots as well as small missiles that shoot immediately out of the front of his ship. And because it loses speed when it turns, you're going to see Tommy jumping around corners, and Zetti as well. Tommy showing a gate hop, in which you jump on a gate before it falls, so you don't have to wait for an elevator to come up. And speaking of elevators, Tommy jumps over the front barrier of the elevator, so he doesn't have to wait for it. BlazinZzetti coming into a prison lane of his own, showing, unfortunately, getting nicked by that gate. Sometimes they don't like to open immediately. But yeah, a lot of the stage is simply homing onto multiple enemies and destroying them so that they can open doors. This is also a lot of jumping, using the height of Tails' jump arc in order to make it on top of platforms that you would normally have to wait for other circumstances to let you jump on them. Tommy getting the second gate hop as well, foregoing the elevator, and coming into the final room of Prison Lane. A 138 is solid. Very well done. BlazinZzetti finishing up his own elevator section, going to the enemy that is going to drop down from the sky, as Tommy goes into the second Sonic stage, and the one that is the most similar to the further ahead Sonic stages. Metal Harbor involves several loop skips, as you're going to see Tommy do. Starting off with this one, instead of running all the way around, he simply spin dashes under to the side and makes it. You can also skip jumping on that spring because the collision is not in the bottom of the stage, and normally you are required to have the light dash to take that path instead of the intended one, but Tommy just spin dash jumps onto some level collision on the side and makes it across with ease. He picks up the light shoes so that he can light dash, and you're going to see him light dash right here. That line of rings is not normally chained and not normally used to keep Sonic above the ground, but with the light shoes, you can follow a path of rings and travel along it. Tommy going for another loop skip, that one showing that there is no collision on the back of that loop. Unfortunately, the spin dash is not looking to go his way, but he does get the storage spin dash under that barrier. Storage is a mechanic that you can use. It'll be explained a little bit after Tommy gets missile skip first try. Very well done. But storage is an artifact of spin dash and somersault being on the same button, and the game not knowing which of the two you are going to be using first. If you're not quite in a spin dash yet, the game keeps you at full height, but after you hold it for the normal duration of a somersault, it changes your hitbox height and the hitboxes you have out. This can be used to pass under barriers and also attack Shadow, as we are going to see in the Shadow 1 boss fight coming up very soon. As you can see, Zetti walks under a barricade that you are normally supposed to somersault under using the storage trick just mentioned. You can also use storage to pass under a barrier and immediately have spin dash charge, as Zetti almost showed off but barely missed due to a jump he used to cancel his storage, which is a technique some runners like to use. And as many of you in chat do know, Sonic is not quite good enough to be called Shadow's fake. Zetti having an unfortunate amount of trouble with missile skip, but he gets it just in time. Incredible. Tommy going into Shadow 1 after a lengthy faker cutscene to show storage. He walks right into Shadow. Shadow not quite sure how he got attacked, but it gets taken down either way. 1345. Nice fight. Zetti looking for a loop skip on the final loop. The camera not working can be a very huge problem. Sometimes it'll result in you flinging yourself off the edge or not making it across far enough because you're not quite sure where you should be aiming. Zetti not thinking that a problem at all on this run and flying right into the goal ring. Tommy going to be starting off his own Green Forest as Zetti starts off his own Faker cutscene. Alright, Tommy going in with a spin dash followed by another one going down the hill. Sometimes you can get stopped on that mushroom, but Tommy showing absolutely no signs of stopping as he gets a 14-second first checkpoint. Green Forest is another stage involving loop skips. There are a couple of other skips, such as the bungee skip that we're going to see later, but the first loop skip is shown right there. Tommy makes it without much issue at all. Going into the light dash here into the next checkpoint. Another spin dash down the hill. Pretty notable in Green Forest. There are a lot of these half-pipe trees that you need to spin dash down. Tommy maneuvering with ease. Doesn't even homing attack into the enemy or the spring. Gets the last loop skip before going into the climbing of the tree section. An excellent storage into that spring. Storage can also be used to buffer B inputs or X inputs. Really just depending on which action button you prefer. He used it to buffer a light dash and it turned out very well for him. The game showing him that homing attacks don't always work as he goes into bungee skip. Bungee skip is notable because it skips a long loop around the tree followed by a short cutscene where you are propelled from a bungee type vine. But that is a cutscene Tommy does not want to watch, so he does the skip into the loop. He skips the loop as well and goes right into the final part of Green Forest, 143. Zetti going through his own Green Forest as Tommy looks to start Pumpkin Hill, the second Knuckles stage. Zetti going for the homing attack into the enemy before the spring and going into a loop skip right before the tree climbing section. Another excellent storage, wow. But yes, Tommy is going into Pumpkin Hill, grabbing the hint box before the text for the shovel claws comes up. The shovel claws, a power up that allow him to dig during a drill dive, and also when he is standing on a wall. Pumpkin Hill is split up into three mountains, excuse me: Church Mountain, Pumpkin Mountain, and Ghost Train Mountain. And fun fact, Tommy's hint, Ghost Train Station, will never be on Ghost Train Mountain. Not at least on that piece. The hint you get can mean a different thing based on what piece you get, and you will see a runner, or you will see both runners without anything on their hint radar getting one monitor per piece if they do not see that piece on the overworld. No, Pumpkin Hill is notorious for having very few free pieces. Tommy going into Mission Street, the one-tail stage that separates Pumpkin Hill and Aquatic Mine, two notorious knuckle stages.
This place sure feels haunted.
Mission Street is not quite the same kind of tail stage as you saw in Prison Lane. This one is a lot more open, a lot less restricted by which enemies you've killed, and a lot more of an outside kind of tail stage instead of the very restrictive, tight corridor Prison Lane. Tommy is going to be picking up the booster power-up, which allows him to hover. Hovering can be abused because the faster you press A after a jump, the more height you gain during a hover. This can be abused especially with pausing, because if you pause and unpause the game, you can trick the game into thinking that you are doing more inputs than you are. This stage, instead of being governed by how many hours or how many enemies you've killed, it is governed by what cycle you are on for the elevators.
I found him.
Zetti getting a pretty respectable 47 Pumpkin Hill. Tommy having a bit of trouble getting the second A press on the pause hover. Pause hovering is a very weird set of inputs, and it's very easy for them to stop feeling natural for you mid-run. Actually, as a matter of fact, a lot of players have different controller grips for pause hovering, as it is A start, start A, which is not the most natural set of button movements. Tommy making it on the 0.5 cycle, making it up Mission Street. There are full cycles and half cycles, which determine what is faster to take. Tommy getting a half cycle, so he takes the normal elevator up. Zetti getting a booster of his own. We're going to see him try and make weight hop. He barely doesn't get it. The floor likes to pop out from you under there, but Tommy's showing very few signs of taking trouble with that, as he kind of sticks to the ground and walks around. Tommy coming up to the end of Mission Street as Zetti continues along his journey up the very slow elevators. Doing a stutter hover out of boredom. I can understand that. This stage can be boring when you're just waiting on the elevators. And Tommy with a 2:16.22 going into Aquatic Mine. Aquatic Mine is a very interesting stage because it has a lot of different free pieces that you can find. Especially during the opening cutscene. The opening cutscene shows an excellent, almost 360 view of the starting room, in which you can see several pieces such as 3 fans, left eye of the giant face, and others. But Tommy starts off going to the top, where you can see a couple free pieces, such as the one in the minecart, the one in that enemy, as Tommy does get the free piece in the enemy and the one in 3 fans. He gets a third piece in Ghost Room, which is right beside where he is. I cannot believe it. A 16-second Aquatic Mine is unheard of. I can't believe that just happened in a race. Double free piece. That's insane. I can't see, yeah, exactly. If you're not paying enough attention in the opening cutscene, there are free pieces for you to get. I'm incredibly impressed by that 16-second story-style Aquatic Mine. Tommy going for now the first Tails car stage. Zzetti has an incredibly huge mountain to climb now, as Aquatic Mine can be a very difficult stage if you are not sure which pieces you have to go for. But the main point of Route 101, this Tails car stage, the only in the run, is that you have to be drifting as much as possible. Drifting is a mechanic that was meant to be used so that you could take corners easier, but in speedruns, it's used as maintaining more of your speed, because the speed cap for drifting is different than the speed cap for driving straight forward. Because of this, you have to kind of hold left and right so that you don't have the game think that you are staying in place and lock you back from drifting. And the main point of this level is to get as many rings as per the ring route dictates, Zzetti getting his own free piece on Aquatic Mine, and using the boost ability after you come up on inclines, as those kill the most of your speed. The camera fighting Zzetti a bit as he comes out of the stair-shaped brick room, going for his final piece, Dented Ceiling. Dented Ceiling is a bit notorious, an unfortunate piece to be sure, but it appears that Zzetti is going to switch the water level so that he doesn't get screwed over. Route 101 missions 3 and 4 Centurion sounds hell. But yeah, two very unfortunate pieces from Zzetti. Tommy is certainly going to be using that to his advantage to further his lead as much as possible. Zzetti looking to apparently drown, hoping for some air. I think he's just going to take it. Very unfortunate from Zzetti. We're going to hope that they get a much better piece in the reroll. Their indicator is immediately green, which is an excellent sign. And Tommy finishing up Route 101 with a rather solid 221. And BlazinZzetti finishing up Aquatic Mine, showing just how long Dented Ceiling was going to take him to do, as he finishes the stage in 43 seconds in game time. Tommy now going into Hidden Base, one of the most technically demanding tail stages in the game. Actually, some would argue it is the most demanding tail stage, myself included. It involves a lot of difficult hover jumps. Unfortunately, Tommy getting cut by the side geometry of that one falling platform. It'll get you if you're not if you're not super careful. A lot of the things in this level are out to kill you, especially when you're not playing it as intended. This level is one of the least played as intended levels in the game, as you can see from Tommy just jumping over the side of a rail. And Tommy flies right over into a dynamite pack and flies over another hallway that he's supposed to travel through, but instead decides he wants to just fly beside it. Tommy going to be using a pause hover to skip all parts of what just happened and making it through those barriers very easily, shooting them with a Vulcan cannon from afar. 53 check. That's solid. Makes it up the bungee pulleys and goes up to one of the final sections of the stage, jumping over a lot of Vulcan cannon barriers. 113. Incredible. Tommy jumping off of the pulley so he doesn't have to wait for the camera to slowly pan around him. And Tommy is going to be showing us even more walls that don't exist coming up. By hovering onto there and getting enough speed and hovering off, you can just fly through these walls, and he shoots at a barrier through the wall that doesn't exist with his Vulcan cannon. Tommy finishing up Hidden Base with a 152 flat. Pretty solid time. Very unfortunate about the death at the very beginning, though. And BlazinZzetti, looking to finish Route 101, does not appear to be going at full speed. Rather unfortunate, as this is the section that gets the most mad at you for not having full speed. Tommy now entering Pyramid Cave, a stage with several skips. The first of which coming up soon, but until then we have very weird to navigate downhill ramp section. Coming up after the first checkpoint is Hourglass Skip, where you abuse what the game thinks an hourglass is actually shaped like, and he gets into Chowbox Jump, where the game isn't sure how big a Chowbox is. Tommy doing a lot of things to his advantage, making a very clean start to his Pyramid Cave into the Bounce Bracelet. The Bounce Bracelet allows you to bounce when you press B, but it allows you to bounce way higher than the developers intended if you're going quickly into a wall when you bounce with B. Because of this, Tommy is able to skip a key door, which is much faster to skip that way, and he goes for the second door skip with Omo Chow yapping in his face. The level geometry is not properly aligned on that side of the door, so Tommy is able to line up with the ground in order to clip right through collision and make it into another downhill ramp tube section. Tommy going for another super bounce on top of this section. I believe he will be going for Snake Skip, and he spin dashes the wrong way. I don't think I've seen that. But the homing attack, and he does make it. Very well done from Tommy, going into another super bounce and hopping around the barrier. Tommy's making quick work of this Pyramid Cave. Zzetti making his own maneuver through Hidden Base, a 1 minute first check, rather solid. And Tommy gets a 145 Pyramid Cave. Zzetti also now jumping over the Vulcan cannon barriers, getting a 121 second check. Not bad at all. Now, I'm not quite sure if Zzetti is going to be going for the same wall strategy. It's very likely. And Tommy getting an instant green, like an instant radar on Death Chamber, which is incredible. Actually skipping the Hammer Gloves upgrade for a little bit because he doesn't need it to get his first piece. Death Chamber does tend to live up to its namesake and involve a lot of death, but also a lot of clipping. If you do not get a piece that you want, or if you get a piece that's too far away, some runners opt to die to get a chance at a better piece, and if you know the clip out, you can clip to pieces that are far away. Tommy now looking to get his third piece and make quite a break on Zzetti. Zzetti now starting a Pyramid Cave of his own as Tommy gets Angel's Ring and a 51 Death Chamber. Very well done by Tommy. Zzetti going for the Hourglass Skip as well. Game still not sure what shape an hourglass is, as he goes for a Chowbox Jump as well. Still the game is not sure what shape a Chowbox is either, but unfortunately he does not get as much height off of the Chowbox Jump as he would like. Zzetti getting a Bounce Bracelet of his own as Tommy goes into King Boom Boo. King Boom Boo, a weird and annoying boss, as he chucks fire at you repeatedly until he breathes fire, you punch his friend, and we turn the lights on. When we turn the lights on, King Boom Boo is scared, so he hides in the ground. You dig him up and punch him, and he runs away as fast as he can. But runners like Tommy can defeat this boss in one cycle of the lights being on by running as fast as King Boom Boo. Unfortunately, if you are just a little bit slow, the one cycle is going to get missed, and Tommy choosing a tactical reset, I cannot blame him. King Boom Boo can really be a hassle if you don't one cycle. I'm sure if you've played this game casually, it's taken you at least 5 or 6 cycles to get him. Tommy digs him up from the ground again. 1, 2. Okay, Tommy appears to be doing rather well on this King Boom Boo fight, as Zzetti looks to finish up Pyramid Cave and start on Death Chamber. Zzetti with a 157, rather solid Pyramid Cave despite everything. There are a lot of things that can go wrong in this stage, and sub 2 is rather respectable.
No problem.
Egg Golem the Golem is a rather mechanically intensive boss. It uses the same super bounce tactic where the game lets you transfer all of your horizontal speed into vertical distance if you are if you bounce up against a wall after you have enough speed. And Tommy using that to his advantage as he gains a lot of height on Egg Golem and bounces right into the weak point on top of his head. Egg Golem can also do a double hand smash and bring his head very close to the ground, in which Tommy gets another chance to hit the shiny thing on his head. Tommy actually gets the extra hit for swag in the fade out, not required by any margin. Tommy just using it to show how much he beat this boss. Zzetti maneuvering through Death Chamber can be a very punishing stage. If you don't have RNG or execution on your side, you are going to need both if you want a relaxed Death Chamber. Tommy going through Eternal Engine now. Eternal Engine is a stage that is not very often played all the way through, and we are going to see Tommy skip that same portion that we are all so familiar with skipping. Unfortunately, he does fall back down from a little bit of a early jump from the bungee cord. The level collision is absolutely not making this any easier for Zzetti. Death Chamber again being rude for no reason. As Tommy continues through the stage, and it looks like Zzetti is finishing up Death Chamber. A 133 is not even close to a bad time. Tommy unfortunately falling off after attempting to get the rocket to cooperate with him. One of the biggest things you have to fight, the true final boss, is the camera. But Tommy does luckily have enough of a buffer that it won't matter too much.
What the? A ghost?
Zzetti going into a King Boom Boo of his own. Hopefully we're going to see a first try one cycle so that he can make up a bit more of this ground. Definitely talented enough of a runner to get a first try one cycle. But sometimes the game decides it doesn't want to happen. Tommy again ascending through the pulley section, getting a 115 check before the skip. He's approaching very quickly to it. Eternal Engine skip, of course, being the skip where you clip out using the level's geometry such that you can fall through an endless plane of space and somehow make it to a goal ring that you are not supposed to make it to this early. Zzetti does get the first cycle King Boom Boo. Nice job. Very well done. Tommy now flying through walls that don't exist in the endless vacuum of space. Tails not needing an oxygen mask. I guess he's just above that. Tails is an intergalactic astronaut, apparently. But the reason this skip works is because at the very end of the stage, there is a very long falling section, which actually perfectly accounts for the fact that Tails' hover loses height over time. Because of that kind of perfect storm of the way the level works, you are able to just fall through the entire stage and right into the goal ring from behind. Zzetti unfortunately getting ballerinaed from Egg Golem the Golem, but he is going up to get the fourth and second to last hit on Egg Golem. Egg Golem shooting his head down below as Zzetti is allowed to get that one final hit without having to scale the back. Tommy now going into the last knuckle stage of the run, Meteor Herd. this stage can be very spread out vertically, but Tommy getting one of the best, if not the best first pieces in this level, as most runners immediately go to the shortcut rocket anyway, so having a first piece directly on it is a very nice luxury to have. Zetti is now attempting his own Eternal Engine as Tommy gets a gun machine protecting the arc. And finishes off with one of my personal friends, Not an Igloo's favorite piece, Jump from the Star. Not a particularly notable one, but not a particularly difficult one to find either. Zetti continuing through Eternal Engine, looking to hit the rocket that gave Tommy trouble in his own Eternal Engine. Hopefully not having that same trouble, and he does make it across. Tommy is going to be very shortly going into the Rouge fight, about as shortly as Zetti is going into the Eternal Engine skip. Now, the Rouge fight is essentially jumping, neutral hovering, and drill diving into Rouge, followed by jumping and putting out as many drill dive hitboxes as you can in a row. This makes Rouge very quickly fall. 15-10 is solid. Zetti now going for his own perfect Eternal Engine skip. Not even going to be a problem. Hopefully he does make the clip out first try. That can be more difficult than it appears to be, especially if you take it for granted. And Tommy is now going into Crazy Gadget, one of the most interesting stages. The point of this stage is to mess with gravity and use it to traverse the stage, but you can actually skip a lot of the gravity triggers if you decide you don't want them, because they are not required. Tommy taking the area beside the checkpoint a little bit slowly, which is very important because this is the skip. Crazy Gadget CGSS involves clipping out through level geometry, falling through infinite space, again Sonic not requiring an air helmet, and falling right into the goal ring. A first try CGSS is rather impressive. Tommy is doing very well. BlazinZzetti starting Meteor Herd as Tommy starts Eggman 2. Eggman 2 does have an AI manip, so that you can defeat the boss rather easily. We're going to see if Tommy can get it though, because it is rather difficult. Dr. Eggman doing a super I'm a firing Malazar kind of shot. Normally it can be very difficult to avoid, but Tommy is having no issue with that at all, firing multiple rockets from the Vulcan cannon into Eggman's face and ending the fight with a 21. Zetti finishing up his Meteor Herd with a 48-25, not bad at all, as Tommy gets into the final Sonic stage of the game with the final skip of the game, FR Skip. This skip can be difficult, and it is not guaranteed that he makes it first try, but he's going to be attempting it for sure. He lines up on the rail, and he jumps and bounces off. This skip is interesting because basically the point of it is you maneuver around the death plane such that you can skip all of the stage and not have to worry even remotely about the execution of the stage itself. Now, that's not to say this skip isn't incredibly difficult. It is, but it's definitely a lot shorter than completing the stage properly. Now, the level textures should be popping in for Tommy in about 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I give it a couple more seconds. There we go. But yeah, his alignment looks good. I believe he will not be having to worry about any death planes giving him a hard time. And he lands directly on top of the goal ring. Well done, first try, final rush from Tommy. Zetti is now going through his own crazy gadget. CGSS may be not a skip that he attempts, although I'm not quite sure. Taking it slow through the checkpoint so that he gets it, always a proper option. Zetti instead going for CGS, which is cool that we're going to be able to show both variants of this trick in a run. Unfortunately, he does get knocked out by the kill plane. Not very forgiving in this run. Tommy starting on the final boss of the game, of which there is a quick kill by just repeatedly homing attacking into Shadow and having him take a bunch of damage. Tommy going for another hit involving spamming the bracelet, and he actually gets knocked out by Shadow, unfortunately not getting a ring before getting knocked out. Let's hope he's able to get the... he collects a couple rings for safety that time. It appears that this is going to turn out better than his last attempt, as Zetti starts his own crazy gadget skip. This one involving very messed up gravity. Tommy gets the final hit on Shadow, 3809. Very well played. Zetti clipping through the level geometry, exactly what he needs to do in order to fall directly into the goal ring, but he misses it because of the rotation of the ring. He looked so close to hitting it. Unbelievable. That's rather unfortunate. Zetti going for another attempt at CGS. Alright, oh, that's so brutal. That was very promising. Sometimes the rotation of the goal ring, though, really does just get you. Also, killing this artificial chaos can be rather difficult if the game decides it doesn't want you to. Zetti now going for a next attempt. Gets the bounce. Goes for the next bounce, and we are right back where we were last time. Fingers crossed he makes it. He does. Very well done by Zetti. And we are going to see him start Eggman 2.
Huh. No problem.
Yes, Eggman 2 is a boss that can be very difficult if a couple things go wrong and there aren't enough, you don't have enough health in order to properly fix them. Hopefully that won't be a problem for Zetti. Zetti just going right in with Vulcan cannon shots. Luckily there is no penalty for skipping getting the bazooka in Eternal Engine. Zetti is now one hit away from killing Eggman and at full health. Very well done first try, 22 from Zetti. Zetti now going into Final Rush. We're going to see if he can make this skip in a similar fashion to how Tommy did. But don't get it twisted, Final Rush skip is difficult and demanding. The fact that Tommy was able to get it first try is incredible. Oh, Zetti barely missing the bounce onto that rail. That's brutal. Goes for the spin dash onto the rail, looking for his second attempt. Does not hit the checkpoint. Ooh, that could be really bad. It means he would have to restart in the event that he fails Final Rush skip, but fingers crossed he's able to get it. It looks like he is attempting to maneuver around the kill plane. We're going to see how his angle is. He makes his turn, he homing attacks, and we're going to see in about 20 seconds whether or not his alignment is proper. The level is slowly fading back in, and Zzetti is looking to line himself up properly on this goal ring. Oh, and he makes it first try. Unbelievable. Zzetti now going into the final boss of the game, SA2B. SA2B might not go as well as it did for Tommy, because even despite the death, Tommy's SA2B was still rather good. And the quick kill on Shadow can be annoying if it goes wrong, but it looks like Zzetti is going right into it, getting the first 2 hits without too much difficulty. The third hit not quite working, but he's going to re-roll it, have Shadow teleport back in front of him, and get another attempt. Gets the 3rd hit, gets the 4th hit, he lines up for the 5th, and Shadow is down in 29 seconds. A 43-13 from Zzetti, very respectable. And this has been an excellent race from both runners.
Sonic, I did it.
Tails letting the crowd know that he did in fact do it.
Awesome job, Tails.
Sonic!
An excellent race from both players. Honestly, this game is very difficult. If a couple things go wrong, it really can mean tilt and also curtains for either player. And Tommy is showing the true meaninglessness of it all as he spirals through nothingness as Knuckles in Aquatic Mine. But yeah, an excellent race from both players. I can't wait to see more performances from both of them as the Speed Gaming Hero Story Tournament continues. Now, for those of you who are looking to catch even more Sonic Adventure 2 action, there is going to be another race. I'm not quite sure yet which channel it's going to be on. But yeah, very well done by both players. Thank you very much for all of you that came out to watch this run. I certainly enjoyed watching and commentating it myself.